it's now my duty and honor to invite you to address the nation and thereafter officially release the results. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put hands together to welcome Mama as she comes to address the nation. We thank you. Long live Mama, long live our candidates, long live Uganda.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting our YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button and tap on the bell icon for new updates about technology trends.
National Examination Board. After that, we shall have the presentation of the PLE results to the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports by the chairperson of UNEB. And thereafter, I will invite the Minister of State for Education in charge of primary education to invite the First Lady to give an address and thereafter officially release the 2022 PLE results. We shall have national anthems thereafter in reverse order, a question and answer session for the press, and thereafter we shall have photos in between this building and the tent, and we shall have two categories. The UNEB team will take a photo with the First Lady and the Ministers of State, and thereafter we shall have a general photo session where all attendees will be able to take an opportunity to have a photo with the Minister of Education and Sports. I'd like to request that we rise up for the anthems. May I request that we all take our seats? I would like to invite Bishop Irene. We commonly call her Bishop Irene to take us, lead us in a word of prayer.
Let's pray. Those who are standing, it's okay. Those who are seated, let's just humble ourselves before the Lord. Our Father and our God, we thank you so much for this day that the nation has been waiting for. We thank you so much for the work of UNEB. We thank you, Lord, for our foot soldiers, the teachers who prepared our learners, our pupils. We thank you so much for the parents and guardians who have sacrificed so much to see their children through school. And Lord, as we sit here this day, we just return all thanksgiving to you, that even through all the difficulties when the examination was being written, Lord, you ensured that everything went on well. And so we thank you for those who passed, even those who did not make it. We want to say thank you. And we ask that, Lord, today, as the minister releases these results to the public, that it will be a time of joy, that it will bring hope to those who have lost hope. We ask that even those who have not made it, it will not be a time of grief, but it will be a time not to give up, but to forge a way forward. And so we invite you to preside over this release. We ask that it will please you to grace this meeting. We ask all this in Jesus' name.
Thank you very much, Madam Irene. I would like to take this opportunity to invite the chairperson of Uganda National Examinations Board, Professor Mary Okwakol, to give her opening remarks.
The First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Museveni, Honorable Ministers of State for Education, the Permanent Secretary, the Executive Director, Uganda National Examinations Board, senior members of the Ministry of Education and Sports, senior members of UNEB, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. The Uganda National Examinations Board, UNEB, is pleased to present to you, Honorable Minister, the results of the 2022 Primary Leaving Examination, PLE, which was conducted on the 8th and 9th of November 2022. Although the COVID-19 pandemic situation appeared to have eased compared to what obtained in 2021, the board faced another challenge, which was occasioned by the outbreak of Ebola in some parts of the country during 2022, most prominently in Kasanda and Mbende districts and Kampala city. The inevitable restrictions which were placed on movements of persons impacted on the movements of examination officials in the affected areas. The board worked closely with the police, Ministry of Health, the district and KCCA leaders and health officials on the ground to ensure smooth conduct of the examination. The board wishes to express sincere appreciation to UNICEF for providing minibuses, 40 minibuses, which were used to transport candidates and examination officials to the examination centers. We are grateful to God that no COVID-19 or Ebola case or fatality was reported at any examination center countrywide. The board also had to deal with a unique situation in Kakumiro district, where a director of a private school neglected to transport candidates from his school to the examination center. The candidates missed the first paper, which was mathematics, but after wide consultations, the board took the exceptional step to administer another examination paper to the 23 affected pupils. I wish at this juncture to emphasize that this was a unique situation which has not created a precedent to be exploited later. Honorable Minister, the number of candidates registered under the Universal Primary Education Program has gone up significantly by 70,683 candidates, which constitutes 13.8%. It should be noted, however, that the funding given to UNEB for the UPE candidates has remained static for the last 5 years. This impacts negatively on the budget and the body's ability to effectively deliver on its mandate. The number of special needs candidates requiring physical assistance went up quite drastically, according to our records. The board will require additional funding to provide for these, as each one of them requires a specialist in sign language, for instance, or a transcriber, or an amanuensis to assist them to cope. Details on candidates' performance are contained in the release statement, which the Executive Director will present. We are pleased to inform the country that there was better quality performance by the candidates in terms of grades. The board is grateful to the security agencies which have worked with UNEB to secure the examination. Many of those who tried their hands at examination malpractice through electronic means were quickly identified and apprehended. The board has also noticed a better appreciation by judicial officers of the negative impact of examination malpractice on our education system. A number of the suspects have been remanded to prison, while others have been granted bail. It is our hope that if found guilty, they will be given the sentences prescribed in the UNEB Act 2021. With regard to examination malpractice, this act provides for 5 years imprisonment as compared to the 6 months imprisonment in the previous act of 1983. The board has identified the distribution of examination papers from storage stations to examination centers as the most vulnerable stage for malpractice. This will require more robust engagement with the district examination officials in assuring the quality of distributors employed. The board will seek more assistance from the security agencies on this matter as well. Honorable Minister, we appreciate you particularly for your quick action in appointing the 11th Board of Directors for UNEB. This action ensured that there was no gap in the governance of the board, and now the membership of the board is structured in accordance with the provisions of Section 6 of the Act of 2021. After their inauguration on the 16th of December 2022, members attended an intensive 2-day induction retreat on the 5th and 6th of January 2023. I'm glad to report, Mama, that the board is now fully constituted. Thanks to you. On behalf of the board, I wish to record our appreciation to the Executive Director and the staff of UNEP for their dedication to ensuring integrity and security in the management of the examination. They always go an extra mile to do an excellent job, for which we are very grateful. I congratulate the candidates who have performed well and wish them the very best in future. Honorable Minister, permit me to request the Executive Director to present the statement of release of the 2022 primary living examination, after which I will present the results of this examination formally. I thank you for your attention.
The First Lady, Minister of Education and Sports, the Honorable Ministers of State for Education, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education and Sports, the Chairperson, Uganda National Examinations Board, senior members of staff from the Ministry of Education and Sports Headquarters and UNEP, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, we are pleased to present to you the results of the 2022 primary living examination, which was conducted smoothly on the 8th and 9th of November 2022 under the theme Integrity and Security in the Management of Examinations. The health and safety of the learners is a joint responsibility. Honorable Minister, this theme was premised on the importance of integrity for all the persons who are involved in the management of the examination, and to ensure that these examinations are securely kept. Mama, we are aware the difficulties under which the examinations have been taken over the last examination seasons because of the pandemic and then the effect of the Ebola. And therefore, this theme was also premised on the fact that we needed to worry about the health and the safety of the learners that were taking these examinations. Mama, all these things must be a joint responsibility for all of us. This is the thinking that informed the theme for this year's examination, Mama. I'll report on the registration of the candidates. A total of 832,654 candidates from 14,691 centers registered for this examination, compared to 749,761. Of this number, Mama, 583,768 or 70.1% of the candidates that registered for these candidates, coming from 11,306 centers, were from the Universal Primary Education Program. These were the beneficiaries. And only 29.9 or 248,982 were non-UPE. The proportion of the candidates that are benefiting from the Universal Education Program has also increased by about 1.7% over the last year. In the statement in table number 2, we have the details of the candidates who registered for the examination, then those that sat, and the absentees for the last 5 years. This mama is given, the figures are in table number 2. What we note from the table is the very steady and sometimes rapid increase in the number of candidates sitting. And we also observe the percentage of candidates that are registered but did not take the examination for one reason or the other. Whereas this number had been steadily decreasing, as we can see from 2017, unfortunately, for some reason that we still have to discover, this number went up by, and we now have 2.5% of the candidates who were absent. Allow me to report on the performance of the candidates by the subjects in the 4 subjects that they have done over the 2-year period of 2022 and 2020. These details are indicated in table 3 in the statement. The performance is indicated at distinction 2 and above level, then cumulative performance at credit 6 and above level, and then pass 8 and above, which is the minimum. And we're giving these subject by subject, and we are comparing between the 2 years. English language, we see that 12.2% of our candidates were able to secure or to score at least a distinction 2. This compares to 7.2 in the previous year, meaning that in English, performance at that level drastically improved. We also see at credit level 65.4% cumulatively of the candidates passed, compared to 59.5%. Again, at this level, there was marked improvement. The overall pass level is comparable at 87.1% and 87.5%. Social studies showed a decline. At the distinction 2 level, we have 12.1% compared to 14.5%, a slight drop. Similarly, at the credit level, we have 73.5% compared to 79.2%, also a slight drop. And then overall pass, 88.6% compared to 93.1% the previous year. So we see that in this particular examination, Mama, the social studies performance wasn't as, it was slightly down from the previous year. We notice an improvement in science at the distinction and credit level, and also happily we note a very good improvement in mathematics, where this year the candidates, 6.3% of the candidates are able to score a distinction pass compared to 4.7% the previous examination. At the credit level, 52.7% of the candidates passed cumulatively, compared to 47.2%. So we can say, looking at this table, that at the quality pass level, as the chairperson said, that is the credit and the distinction levels, performance have been much better than in the previous year. Overall, we can say the performance was comparable. Then we compare the subject performance by gender. In table 4, Mama, the subjects are the same. We have the males on one side and the females on the other side. From the table, you can see that the female candidates have performed better than the male candidates in English language. Mama, this has always been the case. The girls have always given the boys a bloody nose when it comes to English, but then the boys surface above them in the other 3 subjects. This has been the trend that we have kept observing. The candidates' performance has generally improved, as can be seen from the percentages that are scoring distinction and credit grades. Mama, examiners again reported that candidates are exhibiting very good quality handwriting and organized work that they are presenting. Even where they are not getting the correct, for example, in mathematics, where they are not getting it right, they still show that they know what they are doing. Mama, I present the overall performance by division. This is indicated in table 5. The candidates' overall performance by division of grades were showing again division 1, 2, 3, 4, and division U, 2022 versus 2020. We see in division 1, 114,617 candidates, representing 14.1% of our candidates passed in first grade. Mama, this is a big increase from the 81,864, or 11.1. So we are up by about 3 percentage points. Division 2, we also have a cumulative percentage of 58.2 compared to 56.7 the previous year. So again, the quality passes that we are seeing, we saw at the distinction and the credit level, are being seen here when we look at now the overall divisional grades. So again, we are saying that candidates of 2022 at the quality level passes, they have done much better. In terms of numbers, 714,702 candidates passed the PLE compared to 659,910 the previous year. Overall, therefore, Mama, more pupils have qualified to join the post-primary institutions than in the previous year. We deem the candidates to have passed if they have obtained divisional grades of 1, 2, 3, or 4. Such candidates will qualify to register for post-primary examinations conducted by UNEB. The Division U, which we call ungraded, is awarded to candidates who have failed to reach the minimum level of performance that can be awarded at least at Division 4. Such candidates should not be admitted to Senior 1, but should repeat, because if they are admitted in Senior 1, they will not be eligible to register for the Uganda Certificate of Education UCE examination later. Mama, I report the division of grades by funding. That is, we are comparing the UPE and the non-UPE. As we observed from the table, the candidates of the non-UPE, they have performed better, as have always been the case. Their numbers are small, but if you're looking at it proportionally in terms of percentages, then you can say they have performed better than the UPE candidates. This has been observed in the past, and the reasons for this disparity in performance, as indicated in the earlier studies by UNEB, could include the fact that, yes, the teachers in the urban areas tend to spend more time on tasks, and the learners also seem to spend more time in school. The teachers also tend to adopt teaching methods that emphasize preparation for test taking. There is a higher level of involvement also of the urban parents in their children's learning process. And the urban areas generally tend to have better access to those facilities that supplement classroom teaching. So these are the reasons that we think could be explaining the reason why there is a better performance being shown by the urban candidates against the UPE candidates that are mainly in our rural areas. Mama, I've also compared the overall performance by gender. We see that the males performed better, and this has been the trend over the last years. I also report performance of special candidate groups. These are the inmates first. The board maintains an examination center at the Uganda Government Prison School in Luzira. And this year, a total of 68 candidates were registered compared to 58 registered in 2022. So there were 10 more. And of those that registered, 63 of them sat, and the other 5 were absent. They could have possibly been released before the examination period. Now, 5 of them passed in Division 1, 34 of them passed in Division 2, 9 obtained Division 3, 7 obtained Division 4, and Mama, only 1 was ungraded. In other words, 1 did not qualify to proceed. Then the second special group is the special needs candidates that we are also reporting by category: the physically handicapped, the blind, the partially blind, the deaf, the dyslexics, and those others that require transcribers. And then there are the special needs that do not require any particular assistance except to be given more time. The reports indicate that the partially blind and the dyslexics and those that are needing only extra time have done quite well, comparable to the other normal candidates. Mama, it appears that those that have hearing impairments, the deaf, seem to find it a little hard to handle. The teaching learning process seems to be a bit harder for them because we don't see anyone of them getting a Division 1, although reasonably good number of 50 passed in Division 2. I comment briefly on examination malpractice. The scouts and examiners that we have deployed in this examination have reported a number of cases of suspected external assistance that have been rendered to candidates by third parties inside the examination room. and the smuggling of information relevant to the examination by some candidates. Our security also arrested quite a number of distributors and teachers who had cut open the question paper envelopes ahead of time in order to access question papers. And these were reported in the districts of Mukono, Gomba, Mpigi, and the Greater Masaka areas. A number of these have been arrested and charged in courts of law under the relevant sections of the Boards Act. As I speak now, over 10 such persons have been remanded to prison in Mpigi and Masaka. Others were earlier remanded and have been released on bail, awaiting their day in court. In accordance with Section 5(2)(b) of the UNEB Act, the board will withhold the results of the affected candidates until investigations are complete. And should there be any that are withheld further after the investigations, they will then meet the Examination Security Committee to have a hearing if there is a prima facie case established against them. Mama, after this examination, the board gives a feedback to its stakeholders. We do this through a document called a report on the work of candidates, which we are compiling using the observations made by the examiners. And advice will be given to the teachers on those areas where the examiners observe that candidates experienced learning difficulties. We want to encourage, Mama, our stakeholders, particularly the teachers, to utilize this report when eventually they receive them. A word of gratitude. I would like to join our chairperson in thanking you, Mama, for the support that we have received from you to ensure that we obtained the necessary funds to run the examination. In the same vein, I thank the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for releasing the funds that we require within a reasonable time to enable the examination activities to run as scheduled. I would also like to thank the chairperson and the members of the board for the good governance and guidance that we at the Secretariat continue to receive in the process of preparing these examinations. And I also thank the district leaders, the chief administrative officers, the district and urban education officials, the monitors, scouts, and invigilators for their participation and support during the management of the 2022 primary leaving examination. Honorable Minister, I wish in a very special way to appreciate the staff of the Uganda National Examinations Board Secretariat, who over the last examination seasons have risen to the occasion to serve their country with dedication in the face of the COVID-19 and then the recent Ebola risks. Mama, we dedicated each activity and each day in prayer for God's guidance and protection. And I am happy to report, Mama, that no staff of the board or any of the contracted professionals who participated in the various examination activities were affected either by the COVID-19 or the Ebola infections. Mama, I want to give also special thanks to the Inspector General of Police and the Chief of the Defense Forces and other security agencies for availing their personnel to support UNEB in ensuring the security of the 2022 PLE in the field and at our marking centers. Mama, the UPDF airlifted examination papers from Moroto to the districts in the Karamoja region where insecurity had made it risky for us to move by road. I want to single out Brigadier General Baliku Dembe for special thanks, the UPDF division commander that is based in Moroto, for a very, very smooth arrangements and coordination that we made together to ensure that not only examinations materials were airlifted to those other areas, but even those other areas where the security was much better and we could travel by road, he made sure that we had the necessary military escort to ensure that these exams reached safely, and we were able to collect them back also safely for marking. I would also like to thank the media for the role that they have played and they continue to play in giving prominence to examinations activities and also for exposing examination malpractice. I also wish to join the chairperson in congratulating the candidates who have passed and the teachers who have prepared them and their parents and guardians for the support. Finally, Mama, I also thank the institutions that allowed the Uganda National Examinations Board to use their premises and facilities to mark the PLE exam, despite the fact that the exercise would normally affect their school holiday and the Christmas period. I wish to appeal to the chief administrative officers to ensure that invigilators and other people who participate in field management of the examination are paid promptly. Up to now, Honorable Minister, some invigilators from a few districts have not yet been paid, despite the fact that the PLE was done more or less at the beginning of November. Collection of results. Mama, as soon as you release these results, they will be uploaded on the examination center portals. Each school can therefore download their results as soon as you've done the release. However, the district, municipal, and city inspectors of schools who may wish to have the hard copies from UNEB may collect these starting from Monday, 30th January, from our offices in Ntinda. Currently, no copies of the results are available. However, parents and candidates and other interested parties may use the short message service on mobile phone networks, which will post the results of their candidates on their mobile sets instantly. The instruction to get this is if they go to the message menu on their phone, they type PLE, leave space, type the full and correct index number of the candidate, and then send this to 6600. They should be able to get their results instantly. There may be a delay because of the traffic at the beginning, but they will get these results without any problems. Mama, I want to thank you very much for your kind attention, and I submit.
Thank you very much. May I request the chairperson of UNEB to officially present the PLE results to the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports.
The First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, it is my great pleasure and privilege to present the 2022 Primary Living Examinations PLE for release to the nation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
A bigger round of applause to the INEP team. And an exceptional round of applause to the First Lady, our Ministers of State, and the Permanent Secretary for the able leadership. Thank you very much. I would like to take this singular honor to invite the Minister of State for Education, in charge of primary education, to invite the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports to give her address and officially release the results. Thank you.
Mama, our First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, my colleague, the Honorable Minister of State in charge of higher education, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education and Sports, the Chairperson, UNEB, the Executive Director, UNEB, all the senior members of staff of the Ministry of Education and UNEB, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Our God is great, and we are here yet again to taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Why not to give him a mighty clap? Thank you. Mama, I've been called to invite you to address the nation. However, permit me, before inviting you, to give 2 points. 1, today is yet another milestone in the history of NRM government, and under your able leadership, Mama, as the head of education sector, on behalf of the education fraternity and on my own behalf, permit me to congratulate you, Mama, our candidates, our parents, our teachers, as we celebrate the release of PLE result 2022. Let's give a mighty clap. Thank you. We do not take this achievement for granted. Mama, your visionary leadership and strategic directives at the Ministry of Education and Sports has made it possible for us to work hard as a team and to see the results that we are releasing today. The Bible tells us from the book of Matthew, chapter 7, to be like a wise man who built his house on a rocky foundation, and the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it has been founded on a rocky, solid foundation. Similarly, Mama, you have built the Ministry of Education and Sports on a rocky foundation, a strong, solid foundation based on Christian values and integrity, team spirit, commitment, transparency, and accountability in all that we do. Much as there are challenges and shortcomings, where there is the will, there is the way. By the grace of God, we will always overcome those challenges. The timely conclusion of the examination process indeed is a confirmation that UNEB is always prepared to perform despite the challenges they go through. UNEB ensures the exercise is not interrupted and results are released timely. Point number 2, Mama, permit me to thank our fountain of honor, His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for the vision of having universal primary education for all our children. We salute him for being the brainchild behind the UPE program. Because of the UPE, which started in 1997, the literacy rate has improved significantly from 43%, and currently it stands at 76%. This strategy has now seen the numbers in UPE enrollment increased from 2.5 million in 1996 to 3.1 million learners in 1997 when UPE was brought on board. And now the enrollment stands at 8.7 million learners in government-aided schools who are getting UPE capitation grants. Overall, Mama, we have a total of 10.3 million learners in primary education in Uganda. This significant increase in primary school enrollment is an indication that the payment of fees was a big impediment for a poor rural family. Today, as you release the results, Mama, we realize 70.1% of the candidates were registered, enrolled in UPE schools. And I'm happy to inform the nation that government policy on education is to ensure one primary school per parish. Currently, out of the 10,595 parishes in Uganda, 90% parishes have got primary schools, while 10% of the parishes do not have primary schools. And this is simply because of the new administrative units that have been created in the recent years. Mama, the UPE program in Uganda demonstrates that the poor country can fight poverty through ensuring universal access to education for their citizens. After achieving universal access to education, our focus now is on the quality of education, as we've seen from the results of UPE. As I conclude, Mama, to our parents, being a parent is an incredible blessing from the Lord. Raising children and watching them grow in their potential and personality can bring a great joy in the family. In the book of Psalm 127, it is written, "Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from Him." Proverbs 29 tells us, "Parents, discipline your children, and they will give you peace, peace of mind, and make your hearts happy." As parents, we have cardinal duty from God to be responsible and take full responsibility towards the education of our children. I'm therefore appealing to all parents to register all children and let them come to school at the beginning of this year on Monday, 6 February 2023. Finally, Mama, as we celebrate our children, our parents, our learners, we also remember to celebrate and appreciate your neighbor officials, hundreds of security personnel, and all those who participated in the process of examination to its logical conclusion. Mama, the nation is waiting. Our children are eagerly waiting for your message. It's now my duty and honor to invite you to address the nation and thereafter officially release the results. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put hands together to welcome Mama as she comes to address the nation. We thank you. Long live Mama, long live our candidates, long live Uganda.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Kaduchu. My colleagues, Ministers of State for Education, the PS of the Ministry of Education, the Chairperson of UNEB, Professor Mero Kwakor, the Executive Director, UNEB, Mr. Dan Odong, and your team, the media, fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year to you all. Our hearts are full of gratitude to God for bringing us to this day as a sector and as a nation. Our children returned safely back to school and were able to complete the year despite a number of challenges, including the Ebola outbreak, and affected our people. Indeed, we no longer take these achievements, and we shouldn't take these achievements for granted. Today, we celebrate a total of 832,659 candidates who registered for PLE. Compared, as you heard from the speakers before me, compared the 749,761 in 2020. Now, despite the disruptions occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic and the Ebola outbreak, especially on the girl child, we continue to register good numbers at these and other levels of education, and we cannot thank God enough for this. And I know that many people speak freely about education with no much evidence about what they are talking about. But we want Uganda to hear that in spite of all this, education in the country is doing well, and we continue to register good numbers at this and other levels of education, and we cannot thank God at all enough for it. What is even more gratifying is that of the registered number, 583,768, which means 70.1%, from 11,306 centers were universal primary education beneficiaries, UPE, and 248,982, meaning 29.9%, are the candidates from the non-UPE schools. These statistics, therefore, indicate the rising confidence the people of Uganda have put in UPE. Since the proportion of candidates benefiting from the Universal Primary Education Program has increased the last year by 1.7%. So, as UPE marks 25 years this year, It is very heartwarming to know that our people have and continue to benefit from this government service, this program of universal primary education. We are all grateful, therefore, to God for the fact that registration of the PLE in 2022 increased by a larger percentage than ever before, despite the fears voiced by many over the possible massive dropouts of the learners due to the circumstances prevailing at the time. I'm also pleased to note an increase in the registration of candidates with special needs from 1,599 in 2020 to 2,436 in 2022, which is an increase of 52.3%, representing the largest rate of increase of children of this category witnessed in the PLE registration. Of these children, 1,153, or 47.3%, are females, and 1,283, meaning 52.7%, are boys. Consequently, I acknowledge with gratitude the fact that more parents are realizing the value of education the girl child, even with special needs, has in a family. Thank you for the investment you have made in your children and for believing in them, by God's grace. Indeed, your encouragement gives them the confidence that they can rise and shine to fulfill God's destiny for their lives, just like any other child can. At the national level, I must pay tribute to the chairperson, the board and staff of UNEB for successfully conducting the PLE 2022 in the face of several challenges, as all of us know. Furthermore, my sincere appreciation goes to the security and field personnel, district, local governments, and all the stakeholders that tirelessly serve our nation by supporting the PLE examination and the rollout, the execution of the examination and the rollout. They achieved this during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, and they have done it again. So we can only say thank you. On behalf of the Ministry of Education and Sports, I'd like to express our gratitude to the President and all the key stakeholders in the health sector for their support in ensuring the safety of learners as the country faced yet another outbreak of the Ebola virus. At a crucial time when our learners prepared to write this examination, this outbreak had the potential of disrupting the education system as a whole, and in particular, the exam period. Now, let me turn also to my observation of the results we released today. I have noticed from the statement of results that the rate of absenteeism of learners who had initially registered for the PLE and which has been steadily declining in the last 4 years has also increased again by 0.8%, approximately 8,000 learners. There is need to inquire into the cause of this increase in absenteeism, since it does a great disservice to the nation, to the families, and in particular the children who make the effort to invest resources, time, and their energies to attend school for 7 whole years. For these young people to miss out on sitting their examination and the opportunity to move to the next level of their education is truly unfortunate. It's painful, and cumulatively, it's a loss to all of us and the nation. Similarly, The ministry is concerned about the low rate of completion at primary school level, which currently stands at 32%. I appeal to you all to note that completion of the learner's education cycle should be considered as a priority and a collective effort of the schools, of parents and guardians, as well as the community in general. I therefore call upon all schools and the education sector stakeholders in every district to look into this matter and address the root cause. As a ministry, we're going to take this on and find some solutions. We want to inform the country with certainty what we know about what is bringing this dropout rate, so that if there is a way we can put an end to it, we do it as government. And we will not stop until we inform the country about what we consider to be our solution. I also appeal to the parents and guardians to play an active role in providing both the physical and emotional support children require during the course of their education and the examination period. Please work together to ensure that no child loses the opportunity for a bright future by missing classes and dropping out of school or being absent during the examination period. Once a child is enrolled in school, they should and must complete the education cycle. Once a child is registered for an examination, that child must sit for that examination. No child should be disadvantaged. Ladies and gentlemen, I am, however, happy to note that compared to the previous year, 2021, this year the candidates' performance has generally improved, as is evidenced in higher percentages of scores with distinction and credit grades. In particular, the English language examination registered significant improvement in performance at the distinction and credit levels. Likewise, there is an increase in performance in mathematics at the distinction and credit pass levels compared to the previous year. Hence, in terms of numbers, many more children passed the 2022 POE compared to the previous year. And for that we thank God. This is gratifying as we steadily recover from the effects of COVID-19 on the economy and well-being of the people. So I applaud the stakeholders in the education sector for this achievement indeed. As government, we assure the parents and guardians that we will continue to work with our institutions and the private providers of education to ensure that those who qualify for admission into post-primary institutions are placed in the secondary schools and the post-primary vocational institutions. Now, sadly, I have to address the problem of examination malpractices. As a Ministry of Education, we continue to express our deep concern over this vice. This year, there were a number of suspected incidences of external assistance of candidates. Unfortunately, this includes teaching staff who should be the custodians and role models of integrity and trustworthiness. I'd like to remind all our teaching staff now that these young people look up to them and replicate what you model before them. We must therefore demonstrate utmost discipline when fulfilling our roles and functions. Indeed, this is a universal requirement of humanity and in particular, the education profession. Furthermore, none of our cultural or religious beliefs condone cheating or dishonesty. In Titus chapter 2, verses 7 to 8, the Bible states, in quotes, You yourselves must be an example to them by doing good works of every kind. Let everything you do reflect the integrity and seriousness of your teaching. Teach the truth so that your teaching cannot be criticized." Unquote. I therefore sound a strong warning to all head teachers who have been found attempting to institutionalize cheating by cutting open questions paper envelopes to access the questions before time, the question papers prior to the designated examination time. To desist this evil, the Ministry of Education and Sports will not tolerate examination malpractices, and we have said this many times, almost every year, as was witnessed during the 2022 PLE. Our scouts and security personnel assigned to oversee examinations will and will cause the arrest, as you heard from my colleague before me, of all those engaged in examination malpractice. Please know that it will not be business as usual now, because now, as you heard from Mr. Odong, the UNEB Act of 2021 is out. It provides for punitive action for those found guilty of participating in and condoning this practice. I have the faith and confidence that our judicial officers will accord appropriate sentences to those found guilty, and we are hopeful that this is the first time that example will be seen out in the public, so that people may know that this can no longer be accepted or cannot be business as usual anymore. I also acknowledge the fact that prevention is key to ending this vice. Consequently, I strongly appeal to the UNEB officials to purposefully engage all the relevant stakeholders and duty bearers in order to identify the areas of weaknesses and gaps that facilitate this vice and address them. We must exert a deliberate and concerted effort in order to bring an end to these practices. In the meantime, we make the commitment on our part as the Ministry of Education and Sports to provide unwavering support to the efforts of UNEB in this direction. I should also sound a word of caution here to the private providers of education who failed to present candidates to sit the examination that they were registered for, as was the case in Kakumiro district. This is no less than a criminal act, and I hope that by now the perpetrators have been brought to book. District education officials throughout the country must monitor such schools and consider them for closure before they do more harm to our children. No school should put their self-interests before the future and the development of our children in this manner. Actions such as these can have lifelong implications on a child's development and academic performance. They cause insecurity and impact negatively on the self-confidence of our children. In this regard, I express my sincere gratitude to the UNEB officials for their consideration of the plight of the 23 learners who almost missed out on the year's examination last year out of no fault of their own. I also affirm the chairperson's position that this act of offering an alternative examination does not create a precedent, because the situation in this instance was unique. Finally, and very importantly, let me appeal to the nation that as a sector, we are not blind to the plight of parents and guardians as they grapple with the exorbitant school fees and charges in our schools. This has been our burden for some time. But we don't just talk about this without any firm evidence of what we're talking about. We don't just want to continue to talk about things that are affecting education as if we are doing nothing about them. We recently worked in partnership with the Norwegian Embassy to carry out a study on the UPE program with the main aim of determining whether we need to charge fees or not in our government schools. You may wonder why we focus on the UPE program. Well, it is because this is where many of our vulnerable families take their children, and we're concerned that all our children access education, not just some. Still on the issue of regulating school fees in our schools, we constituted a committee headed by Professor Kayanja to conduct a study on the hiking of school fees and charges to help us make an informed decision on the way forward. This study brought a number of issues to the fore and is guiding our discussions at the sector level. This week, on Monday, we sought Cabinet's guidance on this issue. Cabinet has guided that all schools maintain the fees structure for third term of 2022 as we await further guidance on government on this matter. Please know that we are aware of the high commodity prices that have greatly affected the cost of running schools and life in general, but we must also be considerate of the plight of those parents and guardians. It is my prayer, therefore, that our schools, government-aided schools, and private schools will adhere to our guidance not to increase school fees in the next term as we all seek a fair and lasting solution to this matter. Yesterday, as the President was addressing the Kakumiro Day, he said to the public, he said that everybody should just stay tuned and wait and listen to what the government is going to say about these school charges so that perhaps we can find a lasting solution. So government is really working hard. I want the parents and guardians to know that we understand and we care, and government is working very hard to find that lasting solutions. It is my prayer, therefore, that our schools, the government-aided schools, and even the private schools will adhere now to our guidance not to increase school fees in the next term as we all seek a fair and lasting solution to this matter. In conclusion, I congratulate all the candidates who sat for the PLE. I congratulate the learners who have performed well. My appreciation goes to the school administration, parents and guardians for the support and sacrifices that you render to these children that led to their success. I'm also grateful to all the stakeholders in the education sector, the district leaders, the security personnel who played various roles in ensuring the success of the PLE examination. For those who were not successful with the PLE, I appreciate your courage, your hard work, and the effort you made to sit these exams. But while you have not achieved the grades you desired, I want to encourage you not to lose hope, but to trust in the Lord and believe that this is not the end of the road for you. Therefore, do not give up. Continue to focus on achieving your goals, seek counsel, and take advantage of the other opportunities as well as avenues in the education sector to advance yourself. You should also consider repeating so that you get better grades to enable you to achieve your academic goals. With regard to the selection exercise for Senior 1, this will be held on the 2nd and 3rd Feb 2023 at the Uganda Manufacturers Association Exhibition Hall. The date for reporting to school for Senior 1 will be the 20th of February 2023. It is now my singular pleasure to release the 2022 primary living examination results to the public, and I want to thank you for listening to me. As you have already seen here, thank you, and God bless you.
Once again, we would like to thank our torchbearer, our team leader, Mama, for offering strategic direction and leadership to the sector. Thank you very much. As we come to the conclusion of this function, we are going to have the anthems once again, but this time in reverse order. And thereafter we shall have a question and answer session. And during that phase, I would request whoever is asking a question to come to the microphone for Mama to be able to see you. Secondly, I will request Honorable Dr. J.C. Muyingo to provide guidance to those who will raise questions in Luganda. I would like to request you to rise up as we sing the anthems. Thank you very much. You can take your seats. It's now time for the question and answer session. We shall first take a round of 5 questions. Please keep it short and simple. Yes, Mr. Kitui? Yes, you can proceed.
Good afternoon, Mama, the Minister for Education and Sports and First Lady. I am Martin Kituvi from the New Vision. I have 3 questions, but the first one I would like to
please, you can remove your mask.
The first one, Mama, I would like to, I've seen an improvement, especially across all the 136 districts. They at least scored a first grade for the first time in PLE. Usually we've been having districts without first grades, but there are alarming numbers at certain districts such as Madiokolo, with 2,028 students, and the district has just 7 first grades, and just one of those is a female candidate. There are quite a number of districts there in Amudat, and we see that even in Karamoja region, the districts really had fewer numbers of candidates. We would like to understand the plans by the ministry to address, to see that we attract more numbers, also improve candidature there. Mama, also on the issue of the numbers that qualified to go to Senior 1, the improvement, this also means that there will be a lot of pressure to the schools in terms of classrooms, textbooks, the teachers. Are we looking at maybe expansion of secondary schools, registration of many, because the numbers have increased, but the classrooms are not expanding? We also love to understand the plans by the ministry on that. Then also, lastly, Mama, we are going back to schools that will be reopening. The calendar will start on February 6th. But Mama, with your guidance, you didn't lift the ban on transfer of teachers. And they are going to receive new students. Is there any plan on lifting? Probably, maybe the ministry could have found a solution on the issues that are ongoing with teachers. Lastly, Mama, on the proposed statutory instrument on fees, you've talked about the guidance from Cabinet. Is it possible to know maybe the stages under which the ministry proposed statutory instrument is that? Thank you.
Okay, the lady. There are 2 ladies, but the one in blue first, then thereafter. But please keep the questions very short and concise.
Thank you so much. First Lady and Honorable Minister, my name is Yudaya Nangonzi. I'm a journalist with the Observer newspaper. My question first to you, Neb. You've not given us a list or the figures of the withheld results, UNEB and media allies, but how will we communicate when we don't know the total number of candidates whose results have been withheld and those of the schools? And then on the issue of UPE, Honorable Minister, like you said, the most vulnerable take their learners to UPE because of funding, but we realize 87,825 learners are not going to join secondary education and are not eligible for UNEB certificates. Do you think these learners who are also vulnerable will easily repeat P7 because their counterparts in private schools that failed are 9,000 only? The margin is really too big, especially that UPE is marking 25 years and we've not had a single year when UPE learners are actually closely competing with their private counterparts. And then lastly, the issue of special needs education learners. Mr. Dong said deaf learners are increasingly challenged. What is really the problem? Where are not they finding ease in doing these exams, or is it at the classroom level? Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Damani Muhai is my name, from Daily Monitor. You already asked one of the questions I was supposed to ask on the number of students whose results has been withheld. And then two, you did not talk about when we should expect selection of senior one. We understand first term starts on 6th of Feb, so we would like to know when the senior one students are going to be selected. Thank you. I think.
Okay, lady, then after the gentleman at the extreme end.
Good afternoon. Victoria Bagai is my name, Honorable Minister from NBS Television. I have two questions. One, the 25 years of UPE and most of our population taking their children to UEP schools, but yet we continue to see the urban schools that are non-UPE performing better than UPE. What are we going to do about that? But also very importantly, the worst performing districts of last year, can we know how they've performed, who are performing badly this year, and what are the plans to improve on that? And also the issue of infrastructure of some of these UPE schools. What are the plans for the ministry to work on that? And lastly, my question will be to the females. We have seen the males perform more than the females this year, and yet we know the challenges of COVID and Ebola that we're talking about, and yet we see the women now, the females going down in their performance. What are our plans to fast track that as well? Thank you.
I thought the gentleman would come first.
Thank you. My name is Christopher Kiseka. I work with the Uganda Radio Network. Honorable Minister, according to the statement of UNEP, we have been seeing improvement in nearly all subjects. They said mathematics, science. I'd like to understand what is causing the poor performance in social studies. Where is the problem? Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Gillian Nantume, and I work with NTV. My question is about the static performance of females. Every year, they always perform better than the males in English, but then the reverse is true for the other subjects. So year in, year out, they are not performing well in SST, religious education, integrated science, and mathematics. Why is this happening, and what is the way forward? And secondly, we're always seeing schools in eastern Uganda coming up with the lowest performance year in, year out. What strategy do you have in place to improve that performance? Thank you.
I think we can take those. I would like to request the permanent secretary. Sorry. I'd like to request Mama to guide in the response of the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, a question from New Vision. The first question was that first he said that there is improvement across districts, but there are alarming numbers such as Madiokolo with very few learners with first grades. That's true, and it's a valid concern. What are the plans by the ministry to address that problem? Well, we are trying to make sure that the teachers get more time to train on teaching. I'm sure you have heard that government now demands that all teachers should be university graduates, because we believe that there are some teachers who are not well qualified to teach from primary, even pre-primary level. And so we are now trying to ensure that the teacher policy, which is now in place, will perhaps bring a step higher all our teachers, so that the teaching education can be better and well facilitated, so that the qualified teachers would be the ones to go in classrooms, and we believe that that would bring teaching and learning exercise improve, so that these schools where children are not doing well, that they can do better. But also we know that some schools in rural areas especially, they are absent most of the time. And so they don't put in as much time in teaching as they ought to do. And in these periods of COVID-19 and then Ebola, and those times when inspection of schools was not as well done as it ought to be done, teachers were really not putting in enough time to do the teaching in class. And that could have affected the teaching in many schools, but especially the rural area schools. And we work with the local governments. We have education leaders at local level who are supposed to monitor the schools at that level in their areas of responsibility, who really sometimes don't do their work. So you find children don't get the attention they need in class, and therefore they can't do well. But I must also add that parents also don't play the role they ought to play to help their children do what they must do with education. They sometimes let them stay home and do the work at home instead of being at school. So all that will affect the level of education and the participation of any child. Now your second question was increasing number of learners passing. Here will be a pressure on schools. Are there plans by the ministry to expand schools? No, we are not expanding schools necessarily, but we are providing more schools. That's what we have been doing. You know the government policy of ensuring that there is at least one government primary school at every parish. And we're thinking that if there is such a school at every parish, really, there shouldn't be crowds in schools. In some areas where there are refugees, sometimes that brings crowds in schools. But we have continued to strive to provide a primary school per parish and a secondary school per sub-county. But we know that the government schools get crowds because there are more children who need to be in school, and sometimes there are not sufficient schools in any one area. But we believe that not only UPE school is in a parish, sometimes they are community schools, sometimes they are private schools, but of course now as we see more families send their children to UPE schools. So we, however, cannot start providing more classrooms before we ensure that at least we have given one primary school per parish. And because we have been having more and more sub-counties because of changing of districts, that has not made it easy for the ministry to provide more schools. So we can't start providing more schools or more classrooms until we have at least a primary school in every parish. So this is a problem, but we hope that teachers and leaders at the local government level look at the problems they have with the massive numbers of children and find a solution. Sometimes they provide more classes. They provide classes from 8 to 12, and then classes from 1 to 4, so that they distribute numbers among the different times of education, so that we can take on more of those numbers.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe button and tap on the bell icon such that you do not miss out the upcoming videos. We are another technology-oriented channel to bring you with IT knowledge and trending updates in the information technology world.